Have you ever wondered what history's most powerful kings were like? Behind closed doors, some of them weren't just rulers, they were serial womanizers, manipulators, and scandal magnets. In this video, we're diving into the darkest corners of royal bedrooms to expose the most notorious kings in history and how their private indulgences shaped the empires they ruled. In this video, you'll discover the kings whose sex lives became public scandals, how their behavior affected politics, power, and public perception, why most of them never faced consequences for what they did. Let's kick things off by looking at why royal power and personal indulgence so often go hand in hand. Section 1. The link between absolute power and absolute indulgence. When you give one person absolute power, you also remove almost all consequences. Throughout history, kings weren't just rulers. They were seen as divinely chosen, above the law, and surrounded by enablers who would rather protect the crown than confront abuse. This created the perfect storm for unchecked behavior, especially in their personal lives. It's like giving someone a private island, a bottomless wallet, and telling them the rules don't apply. Sooner or later, they stop asking what's right and start asking what's possible. Unlike queens, who were expected to be models of restraint and virtue, kings were often praised for having mistresses or large harems. Their personal conquests were seen as signs of masculinity and dominance, both in the bedroom and on the battlefield. But here's the catch: indulgence wasn't just personal, it was political. Kings used romantic entanglements to gain allies, control court factions, and distract the public from serious issues. Behind every royal scandal was usually a deeper story of power, propaganda, and manipulation. Now that we've set the stage, let's talk about a king whose romantic obsessions literally rewrote the laws of religion: Henry VIII of England. Section 2. King Henry VIII's serial marriages and obsession with heirs. When it comes to royal scandal, King Henry VIII is in a league of his own. He didn't just have affairs, he married 6 different women, executed 2 of them, and shook the foundations of Europe just to get a divorce. His obsession: producing a male heir. And he was willing to do anything, literally anything, to get one. His first wife, Catherine of Aragon, gave him a daughter but no surviving sons. When the Pope refused to grant him an annulment, Henry broke from the Catholic Church, created the Church of England, and made himself its head, also he could marry Anne Boleyn. But Anne didn't give him a son either, so off with her head. And the pattern repeated, wife after wife, mistress after mistress, each one a pawn in his high-stakes personal mission. Henry's private life wasn't just tabloid fodder. It reshaped religion, destroyed alliances, and sparked generations of conflict. In the end, his bedroom choices didn't just change England, they rewired Christianity itself. Section 3. King Charles II, the merriest monarch, and his endless mistresses. If Henry VIII used sex to reshape politics, Charles II used it to avoid politics altogether. Nicknamed the Merry Monarch, Charles ruled after years of civil war and Puritan rule. The people were tired of repression, and Charles gave them the opposite: wild parties, open affairs, and a royal image built on indulgence. Imagine if a modern politician fathered a dozen kids outside of marriage, and then gave their mothers government jobs. That's basically what Charles did. From actresses like Nell Gwynn to noblewomen like Barbara Palmer, his mistresses were public figures. He fathered at least 12 illegitimate children, gave titles to his favorites, and allowed their families to rise in power. But this wasn't just drama for the tabloids. Mistresses had real political influence. Barbara Palmer, for example, was known to support Catholic interests, which made Protestant nobles nervous. Still, the public loved Charles. After years of religious strictness, his charm and openness felt like a breath of fresh air, even if it came with scandal. But while Charles played the charming rogue, our next king crossed a line from indulgence into serious moral controversy. Let's head to France and talk about King Louis XV and the infamous Parcours serfs. Section 4. King Louis XV, the Parcours serf scandal. King Louis XV started out as Louis the Well-Beloved, but by the end of his reign, his name was more curse than compliment. The reason? A secret network near the Palace of Versailles known as the Parcours serfs, a private residence where young women, some barely in their teens, were kept for the king's private visits. They were often recruited from poor families and promised payments or future marriages. Some accounts describe this as consensual, others as exploitative. But what's clear is that this operation was kept hidden for years, and many of these girls had little real agency. Unlike earlier kings whose lovers had influence and public presence, Louis XV's relationships here were secret, one-sided, and morally disturbing. Eventually, word got out. Whispers turned into outrage. And in a country already furious about inequality, hunger, and corruption, the scandal became symbolic of everything wrong with the monarchy. It was the 18th century equivalent of a leaked celebrity scandal, except it didn't just ruin reputations. It helped collapse a regime. Louis XV died before the French Revolution, but his private behavior helped fuel the fire. When the revolution came, it wasn't just political, it was personal. Section 5. King Farouk I, the playboy monarch. By the time King Farouk I took the throne of Egypt, monarchy was already on thin ice, and Farouk pushed it right off the cliff. He was young, wealthy, and wildly indulgent. In the 1940s and early 50s, while many Egyptians struggled under foreign occupation and poverty, Farouk was hosting extravagant parties, collecting luxury cars, and chasing celebrity figures across Europe. He gained the nickname the Thief of Hearts, bragging about his exploits with women. Rumors surrounded his late-night activities, his fixation on purity, and strange stories of voyeurism, including one about two-way mirrors. Many of these tales remain unverified, but Farouk didn't exactly deny them. And while earlier kings at least tried to maintain an image of dignity, Farouk embraced the chaos, and the people noticed. In 1952, a military coup ousted him, ending 150 years of monarchy in Egypt. He died in exile, overweight, disgraced, and haunted by the throne he threw away for pleasure. Section 6. The Myth versus Reality of Royal Perverts. Now here's the twist. Not everything you just heard is 100% fact. Some royal scandals are backed by records, others, fueled by propaganda, revenge, or public outrage. And once people lose trust in their leaders, they'll believe anything about them, especially the juicy stuff. Was Louis XV really running a predatory operation? The Parcours serfs definitely existed, but the details are murky. Was Farouk really a voyeur with a palace of mirrors? Maybe, but Egypt's new leaders had every reason to ruin his legacy. It's like a game of historical telephone. A detail gets whispered, distorted, and passed down, until fact and fiction are impossible to untangle. That said, many of these kings clearly abused their power. Whether the stories are fully accurate or partly exaggerated, the message stays the same. Power without accountability almost always ends in excess. History may not repeat itself, but it definitely rhymes, especially behind palace doors. Conclusion. What royal scandals teach us about power? So what can we learn from the perverted kings of history? These weren't just private vices, they were public disasters. Henry VIII rewrote religion. Louis XV fed the flames of revolution. King Farouk brought down an entire dynasty. In every case, personal indulgence became a national crisis. Here's what we uncovered in this video. Some of history's most famous kings were driven by obsession. Their private behavior had real political consequences, sometimes even revolutions. Legends and propaganda often blur the line between truth and scandal. If you found this look at royal scandal fascinating, don't miss our next video. The most manipulative queens in history, where we flip the script and explore how women used love, influence, and intelligence to rule behind the throne. Thanks for watching, and if you want more history,